In this video, we're going to talk about what we need to do to calculate the 2's complement of a number. And I want you to think of the 2's complement as an electronic negative version of a number. Because we can kind of get our heads around the fact that subtraction is done by adding a negative number to a different number. So the 2's complement is a way of creating a negative number that will, when added to the other number that we're subtracting it from, the minuend, if you will, it will give us in the register the result of the subtraction. Now, one of the things that you're going to see happen as we get into the next video after this one is how we float a bit off the end and we don't care. Unlike where we care because we're calculating missile trajectories or self-driving cars and critical things, when we do subtraction, we float a bit off the end. We know it's coming. We know to ignore the carry bit, okay? Because the result that's left in the register is the subtraction value that we want, okay? So the first thing we need to understand is how to calculate that 2's complement because it's critical to doing subtraction. So let's get into it. Computers can't subtract. That's why we have to do this electronic negative version of a number. And we do that by taking the 2's complement of the subtrahend and adding it to the minuend. That completes your academic snootery for the day. And the subtrahend is the lower number, the minuend is the upper number. To make the point even more painful, if I'm going to subtract 1 from 1, the top number is the minuend, that is the subtrahend. We're going to take the 2's complement of this part of the problem. We're going to add them together, and that is going to give us the value. Okay? So, that's the snooty way to say it. So let's actually do one. Remember, the 2 steps that we need to do need to be done every time we calculate a 2's complement. All right? You got to do both. And the only reason I say that is because every year I have a couple kids that skip one of them. Because this is a process that's really simple, but it's so simple you can blow through it, especially if you're on a test, you're nervous, whatever. Or you can line up the numbers wrong or the bit positions. And if you're like me and your handwriting is horrible, which mine is, it's even easier to do it wrong. So there's 2 steps. Flip the bits, okay? Flipping the bits is step 1. And flipping the bits should be simple, okay? You'd be surprised how easy it is to get it wrong. You're literally just going down the position of the switches or the bits and changing them, okay? So if it's a 1, it becomes a 0. If it's a 0, it becomes a 1. Don't artificially make anything harder about that. You're just literally flipping the bits, okay? Step 2, add 1 to the whole thing. Whatever you get when you flip the bits, add 1. Now, I have a lot of kids that'll think, oh, I'm just going to do this in my head. And the number one mistake they make on an assessment is they forget to carry 1 because it adds up to a 0 or a 3 or whatever, and they don't carry it, okay? And they don't check, is there a remainder or not. All right, so let's do an example of a 2's complement. I'm going to put the steps up here, flip the bits, and add 1. So we're going to start with a simple number 28. Okay, so what is the 2's complement of 28? Well, step 1 is flip the bits. And again, I like to keep this in kind of a left nibble, right nibble thing. I'm visual, so when I talk about copying bytes, I like to think left nibble, right nibble. And when I do this step, it's easier for me to think that way. So that's the left nibble 0001, so it should be 1110. And then the right nibble should be 0011. Okay, so there you go. We flipped the bits, and that's all there is to it. And I hope I'm not confusing it by being so brutal about it, but I've seen people get this wrong under speed, pressure. When you get into that school thing, it's easy to get that wrong. So just take your time and flip the bits, okay? Don't artificially think it's harder than it is, because it's really not. Okay? And then we're going to add 1. Now again, this is where if I'm going to see a mistake, this is where I see it. Show all the zeros until you're good at it, because if you show your work, again, sounding like a math teacher, but if you show your work, you're also helping yourself not make alignment mistakes, okay, and missing a carry. All right, so let's do the math. 1 and 1 is 0, we get a carry. 1 and 1 and 0 is 2, so that's a 0 with a carry. The carry comes down, and since the rest are zeros on the bottom, we're done there. Okay, so 1, 1, 1, 0, and then 0, 100 is the 2's complement of 28. Okay? And that's all there is to it. Now, this is not part of a subtraction problem. This is just showing you the 2's complement of a 28. So let's do another. Let's do, well, first let's show the steps. And then let's do the 2's complement of 254. Now that's literally everything set but the 1 bit. Okay? And again, I've had students where they see all these ones and they're like, oh, and they like lock up. It's just a bunch of ones. Okay? And it doesn't go higher than 1. It's zeros or ones, right? So don't make this something that it's not, because watch what happens when I flip the bits. Okay? No big deal. Now when I add 1 to that, okay, this should not be hard. Even I can do this, okay? 0, carry the 1, I'm done. Right? Doink, 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 doink. Okay? So literally the binary number for 2 happens to be the 2's complement of 254. Okay? So to calculate a 2's complement, and we'll talk about this in the next video, but I'll kind of foreshadow it. You want to keep the step of calculating the 2's complement on your paper somewhere else. Okay? Do that somewhere else. Over to the side somewhere. Because in the subtraction, if you try to do it all, it never works. Okay? And I know this in how I design my assessments. You know, if you're not in my class, practice this. Okay? Because if your teacher's like me and we all sit in the dark at night going, whoa, when we write our test questions, we'll write questions. If you don't do your 2's complement somewhere else, it'll be a little tricky and easy to muddle up when you actually do a subtraction. So in the next video, we're going to actually do a couple subtractions that involve 2's complementing, and we'll go from there. So I will see you on the other side.